You're
Good morning,
on.
this is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here at Yeshiva Salman here in Yerushalayim here at Kodesh. We're learning the few things relevant to Hanukkah. Chanukah Yeshivas is our location on Rehov Zikron Yaakov number 6. We're close by to the central bus station, so you can walk, bus, or drive. And if you're coming from Florida, from Chutz La'aretz, you can fly. And we'll be happy to have you join us. We have breakfast here, coffee as much as you can drink, and hopefully we'll get to see you. Just a few points about the Gemara we learned yesterday. If you remember, that was about Hallel. So there are those Meforshim poskim that learn out that there is a chiyuv to say the Lolanu, the Hallel, at the time before the threat, at the time of the threat, and then after Hashem save us from the threat. So it's a double obligation to cry out to a Kadosh Baruch Hu before the actual distress is imminent, and certainly when the distress is imminent, and then certainly after Hashem saves us from some calamity or another, we should certainly cry out to Kadosh Baruch Hu with thanksgiving. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more another time. For today, we're learning the Gemara Avodah Zorah, beginning with the Mishnah. We'll learn part of the Mishnah, and then we're going to go to the second relevant part. Rachmi, you have to be reading the Mishnah? Elu Edim, yeah.
Elu Edihen, Shalodei Chochmim, the holidays, or if you call it the Yom Tov.
These are the holidays of what is it? The Gemara is the Mishnah is following up because there was a laws relevant to doing business with an akum before their days of holidays, because if you do business with them, and they'll be thankful to their and they'll be extra happy. So we don't want them to do that because of anything that we would do. So therefore, these are the ones that are specifically listed in the Mishnah as things which we have to be careful about doing the various different business activities with the akum. The Elu.
Oh, the hand of the Chochavim. Calendar, the Vastanumra, the Kartisim, Yom Knusia, Shel Malchehem, Yom Halida, Yom Hamita, the Rabbi Meir, Chachamim Omeim, Chol Mita Sheyesh Ba, Shrefa, Yesh Ba Avudat Kochavim.
Let's just explain a little bit. That's about as much as the Mishnah we actually need. So, these are the holidays of the Goyim, Kaldana, and it's a little bit off the subject. We won't get into now, but this we will talk about it maybe next week. Bli Neder. That was that 8 days before and after Teves, which Teves is. It'll be coming next week in about 2-3 weeks, and it corresponds with the beginning of the new year, beginning of the celebration they had at the beginning of the new year. And if you notice, that word kalanda is very similar to the word calendar, so it's a interesting thing to think about. The things we have hanging up on our houses may have reminiscent tinges of Avodah Zorah attached to them. We'll talk about that maybe tomorrow, next week. Then you have Sartana. That's when the word, obviously you see the word Saturn in there, Sartana. Then Karchusi. That's another name of their holiday. The Yom that they inaugurated their kings. Later, the day of the king's birth. The Yom Yisu, the day of the king's death. The Rabbi Meir, the Chami Moment, that's going into the details now about if they required that if a king was died, they would burn all his belongings. So that would be a day that would be a significant event, so we'd have to stay away from it. Okay, so let's turn to Amid Beis. And about a quarter of the way down, maybe 12 lines or so, you see there's 2 dots. And then the first word on the line is Vikartisi. That was the third named holiday of the Mishnah. So the Gemara wants to ask, my Kartisim. You have the spot?
My Kartisim?
Yes, my Kartisim. What's Kartisim? What's this holiday Kartisim?
Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Yom Shekavsa Bo Romi Machut, the day that began the kingdom of Rome.
Yeah, that they gained control of the kingdom, meaning the world. When that was the day that Rome gained control over the world. They made that was a very big holiday for them, right? So they made a holiday, Bible worship. Okay, that's the mimer of Amar Yehuda Amar Shmuel.
But Tanya, right?
We have a question about Tanya. There's a question. How could that be?
Katsim Yom Shekavsa Bo Romi Machut.
So the Rice is used as a question. You told me that Kartisim is the day that Rome was typhus the Malchus. Rome gained control over the world, right? Why we see in the Bryce as Kartisim, V'yom Shetafsa Bo Romi Malchus. They're two apparently separate things. So that's the question that the Gemara is asking based on the Bryce. Kartisim seems to be one independent holiday, and the Yom Shetafsa Bo Romi Malchus, that seems to be another independent day, not one and the same thing. So that seems to be contradictory to our first statement, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's see. So now you can expect the teretz. When the Gemara asks the question in general, you can expect the teretz.
Marav Yosef, State Kisod, Tafsa Romi. So
There were two times Rome gained control.
in control.
Right? Two theses. There were two times Rome gained control.
Control. Romi, Ata,
Achas.
Achat, B'mei,
Cleopatra.
Cleopatra,
Malchus.
Cleopatra.
Right. Cleopatra and Malchus. One was in the time of the reign of Cleopatra the queen.
Who's Cleopatra?
Excuse me?
She's an Egyptian queen.
We'll see. Rashi will explain it. That could be a generic name, by the way. And just like Paro is not necessarily one person. Paro could refer to the ruler of Egypt, right? So Cleopatra could be the name given to the queen of Egypt.
Achat, Shetafsa,
And the second time they would fight is the Malchus. Yeah?
Newspaper.
Yeah? You tell me later, you tell me later. Here, we're right here. Good morning, Lord's Daf Test on the base. Because I'll just take a look inside, I'll just review for you up to Amram, I'll review for you, okay? Have the Gemara there in Kartis, and the Gemara,
Yes.
the Mishnah is based on the Mishnah. The Mishnah said these are certain holidays of Akum that the Goyim that you have to stay away from doing certain things with them, okay? So now the Gemara is asking my Kartisim. One of the holidays listed in the Mishnah was marked Kartisim. What's Kartisim? So Amarav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, right? We would have said in the name of Shmuel, right? Yom Tfisa Bo Romi Malchus. That was the day that Rome gained control of the kingdom, right? Tanya, we asked the Kasha, Kartisum Yom Tfisa Romi Shal Malchus. That the two different things, Kartisim, and also the Yom Shetfisa Bo Romi Malchus are two different independent days. So you can't say, the Gemara's Kasha is you can't say that it's the same day. So Amar Yosef, Shtei Tfisas Tafsa Romi. There were two times Rome gained control. Two times they did. So on each day that they gained control, right, they made that into a separate, independent holiday. Achas b'mei Kapatria Malchusa. One was during the time of the queen of Egypt, Cleopatra. Achas Tifsa b'mei Yavonim. And the second time was in the time when they gained control during the days of the Yavanim. Okay, 2 tvises, 2 times Rome gained control. There are a couple of Rashis here. Let's see. Let's see some Rashis.
A little late.
Have the Rashi. The Rashi here is in the short lines, about 8 lines down into the 10 lines down to the short lines. Yom Tfisa Boromi Malchus.
Yom Tfisa Boromi Malchus. שנלחמו עם יוונים וניצחו. They war against Yavan, and they won. Malchu, and they reigned in all the world.
So the Yom Shetfisa Baromi Malchus, that's when they did war against the Greeks, and they were victorious, and then they were Malchus and ruled over the whole world. That was one of the special holidays they made in their...
The Romans were one of the people who ruled the world?
Roman Empire. Yeah,
the whole world?
Sure, very
Persia, no?
Excuse me?
As far as Persia, all the way down there?
As far as England,
England we know.
Yeah,
England,
That's pretty far away from Rome.
Basically everything was under Roman control. Yeah.
It still weren't happy.
That was one, and then one of them was the May Kapaltria, or Malchusar, the days of the time of Kapalapatra.
The May Kapalapatra, Malchusar, Shel Alexandria.
Alexandria was the capital of Egypt. Yeah.
Egypt. The Amar Hamapalat.
The Mesectis Nida. That's the name of the parak of the Gemara in Mesectis Nida. And what does it say there?
Chamu Romiim Imah, and the Romans fought against her, and they threw her, and they won. Tasu Ham Hamlucha, they gained control.
So after they conquered Alexandria and Cleopatra, so they became rulers. And both of these days were significant to the Romans, and therefore we have to stay away from them. Okay, let's see a little bit further. Now that we mentioned the days that they gained control, we're going to go a little bit deeper into the time of what actually occurred. And then we'll try and relate that a little bit to Hanukkah. So the more continues. Amr Rabdimi Omer, right? Rabdimi Omer.
Rabdimi Omer, Tatim, the train. Tatim is 3 or 30?
Tlitin is 30.
30.
Trin is 2.
So I think the train 32. Rabbein, Abdul Romi, battles, 32 battles.
32 battles.
32 battles. Abdul, they did Romain, the Romans. They, Yevanei, with the Greeks.
Right. So Rav Dimi says that there were 32 battles that the Romans waged against the Yavanim. What happened in all these 32 battles?
When they couldn't.
Weren't victorious.
Against them. Ache Shitfinhu Israel. Ache Shatfinhu. Until they joined with Israel, together.
Oh, so okay, let's stop there. That's basically we won't have time to continue more in this, but maybe next week we know. So the Romans attempted 32 times to defeat the Greeks, right? And they were unsuccessful in defeating the Greeks until they finally joined forces with the Jews. Once they joined forces with the Jews, then they were successful.
But they were partners before the brothers brought him in?
Okay, so first of all, we have to know what Kufa we're talking about. Meaning, which brothers are you talking about?
The 2 brothers after the story of Chanukah, that who was going to be king, and one called the Romans to come in, and that they never left.
Okay,
so the Jews were partners. Jews were partners with the Romans.
With Yehuda Maccabee, yeah?
No, this is later. That's
So, okay,
three kings later.
Right, so we'll have to exact historical chronology, I'm not sure about. All we know right now is what the Gemara tells us, okay? The Gemara says that they waged war against the Greeks 32 times, and they were unsuccessful, and finally, when they finally enlisted the aid of the Jews, along with them, then they were able to conquer the Greeks, okay? So now, just basically in terms of global world history, so you had basically the Greeks were there, they had the control of the world, and after that it's generally known and accepted that the Romans took over after the Greeks, right? And the Jews, basically we're interested in living in Eretz Israel, fulfilling our mitzvahs, not, we're not interested in ruling over anybody, just let us, sit and learn and fulfill our mitzvahs, and we're very happy, right? So, but the Goyim were very interested in conquering each other, right? So Rome was unsuccessful until the Jews were enlisted in their battles. How they're going to be enlisted, so we're going to see the Marshal in a moment. We'll take a look at the Marshal, what he has to say about this. And Pashtus Devarim, that they actually enlisted the Jews in battle. If you look at the Pashtus of the Gemara, they enlisted the Jews in battle. But again, you have to ask yourself a question, how many were we? It says, we're not the greatest number of people in the world, so why would the Romans not specifically need Jewish help? Let them get Ethiopians, let them get Persians, get them, Africans. You can get a couple million Africans to help you out, fighting your wars against the Greeks. Why do you have to come ask a few Jews? Especially, we're probably mostly interested in sitting and learning Gemara. We're Chalashim, Ma'atim, right? Tzadikim, Oski Pesorasecha. What do we have to do with all this? Right?
Is this connected to Chanukah?
So no, we're learning it in connection to Hanukkah because we have to realize that Hanukkah was just a point in the process of history which eventually led to the Korban Abayis. Right? That's the Hemshech of the Gemara is going to eventually bring us all the way to the unfortunately the Korban Abayis. So let's take a look.
So the Romans asked Israel for help to get rid of the Greeks. They get rid of the Greeks.
Yeah.
They live a little free. They bring the Romans in, and then they destroy us.
Okay.
That's what the sentence China means, basically.
that what we
I
just
don't
what
think
we
it
said?
means between neighbors, some
Seems
bickering. I mean, I think it means this stuff that they call the Roman
Something to do with
and
history.
motion and all that.
Okay. Well, hold
From the
on.
right angle, it looks like
He looks at me.
Let's take a look at the Marshal.
Okay.
Hold on.
Sorry.
We'll take it. No. I'm sorry I didn't answer your question from the last
No.
question you asked on the halakha sheet yesterday. We asked about.
Sorry, I
four
edited it
questions.
out. There was no question on film.
No, okay.
I don't know what you're talking
To Amram, I'm just saying that I heard your question, but then everything kind of broke up and
That's fine.
I didn't have a chance to answer. So we'll get to the halakha here. We can discuss some more of it, if you like. Now here the Gemara in the Marshal, Daf Ches Amid Beis. Right, we have here. It's right in the middle. It's on the right-hand column. Yeah. Right-hand column in the Marshal, the Kedushia Gados. Right, and that's the small print. Right by the Amid Beis. That's a key when you're looking for something in the Marshal. Right, so the first thing you look for when you're looking for something in the Marshal, if it says, at least in the old editions, now they made new improved printings. I'm not sure how you do it. So you would always look for the Amid Beis because that tells you if you're on Amid Aleph or Amid Beis. So since we're on Amid Beis, so you'll know anything you're looking for. You have it there. Good, great. Anything you're looking for should be after the ayin/base. And this happens to be easy. It happens to be what we're looking for right after that, right? Lauren, you like to take over, read a bit?
Sure.
Oh, it's too small for you? All right, come on, join us.
Amrit Watson, between Prove Avdu,
Avdu Romoy.
Avdu Avru Ramoy,
V'hadei Yavonoi.
V'hadei, uh,
Yavonoi,
Yavanai,
right? Lo yo.
Ella, v'lo yichol lahu ad.
You want the next one?
Yeah, that's good. It's good. I mean, stop in Israel until they ask the Jews to join them.
Right, so this is that's what we call the Divra Maskell. That's the beginning. That's a quote from the Gemara that the Maharsha is going to comment on. So Amru was said that there were 32 battles the Romans waged against the Yavanim, the Greeks. V'lo yochlu, they couldn't conquer them. Ad yishtatu Yisrael, until they joined forces in some way or another with the Jews. Now, Vir Inyan Zeh. Okay, the explanation of this topic is as follows. Okay.
Malchus Romi ein law
Memshala.
Minshala below
Ki'im.
Ki'im
Chafal is Ki'im.
Lafi Shanos
Zakus.
Zakus. Many years?
No, Zakus means the merits.
The merits, okay. Oh, Zakus, Zakus, I'm sorry, Zakus. Okay. The Chovos Yisrael.
Am Yisrael.
The Chovos Am I lost one. I sure. Okay, for Yisrael.
Okay, so this is the first. This is the basis.
Have better print.
Oh, yeah. Does anyone have a new Gemara that could switch me?
Maybe.
No, I got it. There might be a few here. In any event, okay. Again, the Maharsha starts off like this: that the Bira Indian explanation of this Indian that Rome couldn't be successful against the Greeks until the Jews came along to help them. Yeah, until the Jews came along to help them. Right?
Try the chair with the stender in the corner, we can move the rabbi's
Hey,
coat.
now I gotta find a place.
And Yaakov also has a bigger Moshe.
Which would you rather go?
So again,
Would you
Bira
rather
Indian
get the
that
stender in the
that
corner of
Malchus
the chair, or would you
Romi,
rather bring this
right,
chair in over here?
the kingdom of Rome has no memshala. The kingdom of Rome has no power, right? Except according to the feast, except according to the merits and obligations of the Jews.
So basically Yaakov and Esau, right? The bracha of Yaakov and Esau.
It's going back to that basic, exactly. It all goes down to that. If that's
He doesn't need a chair, brother. Doesn't need a chair, thank you.
So we have the, as Amram said very correctly, it goes back to the basic relationship that Yitzhak Avinu had set up between Esav and Yaakov. Okay. So that's the basis of this point. Let's continue.
Commotion and Mar.
As it is said, right?
Commotion and Mar. Gayak Asher Tarid the Gomer. They should struggle.
Right. Those are psukim which are relevant to the relationship between Esav and Yaakov. Okay?
Yitzchak told Lisa when he said, say something.
Right.
Okay. Amalsa. Tirba the Gomer.
Oh, the mother
Ilmole.
No, the mother Hachareva.
The Gomer.
Zeh,
Ulezeh, Shifu Im Yisrael,
Isnu,
V'itnu, Hodihu,
Gahadayu.
Badahu.
Now, with this, that was the joining of Rome with Israel. Now, so there we have to try and understand whether the Maharsha is telling us the external understanding of what's going on here, or the internal, the panemius of what's going on here. Meaning, when when the Romans, as the Gemara says, the Romans enlisted the aid of the Jews, right? So, do we understand the Gemara to tell us that they actually enlisted our help in battle, physical battle? Or what seems to be what the Maharsha is telling us up until this point, that since the Jews weren't fulfilling their purposes, because everything, as the Maharsha said, is dependent upon the zechus, the merits of Am Yisrael, or the chayvos of Am Yisrael. So this shutvis between Rome and the Jews to be successful over the Greeks couldn't have been forged until there was a reason that Rome should be conquering and therefore ruling over the whole world. So what gave Rome the ability that they should rule over the whole world? Let's see further in the Maharsha.
Okay. I minyan malchei
Minaychu
minaychu
Afriki. This is the Gemara later on. The Gemara is going to describe what was going on. The Gemara says that the Romans were giving offers. If we'll have the monarchy, right? So if we'll be the kings, so you'll be the princes, right? Meaning there's only one can have the actual ultimate rulership. So they will make us an agreement. If we'll be the kings, right? So you'll be the princes, right?
If you're the kings,
then we'll be the princes, right? The fee. How does that work?
The fee zechus v'chovos Yisrael shtehem shaven, because they were equal, meaning the Jews and the Romans.
Well, it says lefi zechus v'chovos Yisrael shtehem shavim ba'alma achas I efshar, that they, according to the merits and the obligations, the debts, spiritual debts to Kadosh Baruch Hu of the Jews, that Rome and Israel should be equal at the same time. It's impossible.
That's
impossible.
Okay, yeah, okay.
If we're notorious, so they have to be on the bottom.
Right.
If we're oppositely, then it goes oppositely. But it can't be that cannot exist equally. Okay? E-F-Shur.
Sir. Lezeh kishabo zman Mamshelis
Haya Haraviis
Haravius
Shira Daniel.
Daniel.
You know about
Daniel?
Prophecy.
He had visions of 4 wars.
Four kingdoms. Four kingdoms.
4 kingdoms. Oh, okay.
And they were each were in this vision, the different animals, different visions of different things, right? So each one had its own specific time. Right? That was clearly seen by Daniel.
Lo Yecholin Haramayim Litzala
Letzeach, to conquer.
To conquer.
Yeah.
Hayavonim B'mamshala B'milchama Kilo Haya Lahem Mamshala Ela Lefi Zechus B'chovos Yisrael.
So therefore, it was, since according to the dream, the vision of Daniel, right? Therefore, the Romans were not able to conquer the Greeks in war, right? Unless they would have the Mamshala. The control would have to be passed over to the Romans first, and then they could conquer the Greeks, right? And that's only going to be, that control that the Romans would have would only be according to the zechus and choivs of Yisrael, dependent upon the Jewish status at the time.
So
was that? Yeah.
But it sounds like Rome could only be successful in partnership with Israel.
Okay, so the question is, what kind of partnership we're talking about, right? Meaning, when the Gemara says they were mishtatfu b'hadayu, they were joined together, right? The question is, did we actually make an alliance with Rome? Did Rome actually make an alliance with us? Meaning, and that can be found out historically. Okay, so again, we have the Historia, we have history, and then we have what the Gemara is teaching us, right? So, and according to the way the Maharsha is explaining things, that ability for Rome to gain control, to now take world control and become the world power after the Greeks, that was only possible with the alliance with the Jews. Now, whether that was a military alliance, a political alliance, and it could be also, but the primary cause of their rise to power and their ability to defeat the Greeks was the spiritual level of the Jews at the time. Meaning, had we been on a level, because as the Maharsha explains, as we know, when Esav rules, Yaakov cannot rule. When Yaakov is ruling,
So how to make the alliance if only one can be
That was the beginning and
up
the
at
end.
once?
That was
so
the
the
beginning and
question,
the end, though.
no, so the question is,
They
it could be.
They were on themselves.
So it could be the alliance. It could be the alliance is not a political or military alliance. The alliance that the Maharsha is explaining is it's a spiritual alliance of the balance between Esav and Yaakov, right? And therefore the Greeks were only defeatable if Rome would be able to take power. Okay, because what are we talking about Hanukkah? What are we so happy about? We defeated the Greeks, right? We defeated the Greeks in terms of our purpose. We regained the base of Migdash. We regained control and defeated their. But in terms of world power, we weren't interested in conquering Greeks to become a world power. The Bnei Hashmonaim weren't, and the Matasu Kohen Gadol were not interested in becoming a world power with the defeat of the Greeks. Right? We simply regained our avoda back in the base of Mikdash, and that was sufficient for us. Right? We gained our autonomy. Right? We're going to see next week the Hemshech of the Gemara. We'll see how things went on, and we'll have to move on to the next year now. But that's the point that we're in the middle now with the Maharsha, that this alliance between Rome and Israel, was this a entirely spiritual alliance based on the balance that Yitzhak had set up between Esav and Yaakov? And even if it is entirely a spiritual alliance, nevertheless, there will be political and military outcomes of that as well, which the Gemara is also mentioning, that there were battles between the Romans and the Greeks, and they couldn't win, they couldn't be Menetzeach in battle until they were at an alliance with the Jews. So, Bez Hashem will continue next week after Shabbos, and we'll learn more about this.